Distinguished honour guests, ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention please for our next speaker. Thank you. I'd like to now call upon our next keynote speaker. That's the former Mayor of Leeds, City Council UK, Councillor Abigail Marshall Katung, please.
A very good afternoon to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for inviting me. To all distinguished guests here, thank you to the previous speakers, to Lord Perek. I admire your resilience, your can-do attitude. I would love to be like you when I grow up. So please join me in giving him a huge hand of applause. It gives me great joy to join you all today. And when I think of Indians, I think of my Year 4 primary school teacher, all the way in Nigeria, where I was born. Then my father was in agriculture. He's late now. My father died in 1999. He was an agricultural engineer and had an expatriate from the India who was his deputy. He was called Professor Verma. And it was from Professor Verma I learned a lot about India, the food, the dressing. Actually, I wanted to come in my sari today, but you know the English weather. You have to, But I've seen a lady here in her sari and you look beautiful. When it comes to the relationship between India and the UK, it's been a glorious one when you look at the population and representation and the economic contribution of Indians to the United Kingdom. Join me in giving them a huge hand of applause. In Leeds, where I'm from, we are over 800,000 population, the second largest authority after Birmingham, and we have just over 10,200 Indians in our city. So that shows you the level of contribution and how we love the Indians who live amongst us because they excel in everything that they do. Fact. Apart from them excelling, there's something about their culture when it comes to respect that I admire so much. And their food. I've got twin boys who are 22, and my elder twin says, "Mom, can I marry an Indian girl?" I said, "Of course, Alvin. Why is that?" He says, "I would eat curries every single day." So, anybody who's got daughters that are about 18, 19 years old, I've got twin boys who are smashing, highly intelligent as well, because I know the Indians has got to be medicine, engineering, and law, okay? My son is studying engineering. So we will do the matchmaking and make sure they come together so that they can always have curries at home. So it gives me great privilege and profound honor to stand before you today here in Cllr College with this historic, beautiful, respected University of Oxford. I bring you warm greetings from beautiful Yorkshire. We are also known as God-owned county, okay? And I also bring you greetings from our communities where I have had the honor to serve as the 130th Lord Mayor and the first of African origin, hoping I will not be the last. Thank you. I am very proud of the communities that remind me every single day that leadership is defined by the impact that we make and not by the titles that we have. So the organizers have told me to speak about local leadership to global impact, building trust, equity, and sustainable communities. Let's talk about the power of leadership. So when we speak about global change, we often think in terms of international agreements, global institutions, and complex frameworks shaped by the United Nations. But real lasting change begins locally. It begins in our streets, it begins in our schools, and it begins in our communities. Local government is where policy meets people, and it's one of the main reasons I stood to be an elected member in Leeds City Council. It is where a parent decides their child's future feels hopeful, where my twin boys can decide whether they belong, and where trust in leadership is either built or it is broken. In my time serving as Leeds, I have seen what happens when leadership truly listens. I have stood with communities, celebrate moments of joy and triumph, from civil milestones to cultural festivals, and I have stood with them in moments of challenge too. I have seen how investing in people through community initiatives, partnerships, and grassroots engagement transform not just our neighborhood, but it also transforms our lives. So, when we speak about advancing the Sustainable Development Goals, we must recognize the simple truth, and that is there is no global success without local delivery. Inclusive communities are very important, is the SDG 10 goal. One of the central pillars of this summit is reducing inequality. When I was Lord Mayor, that was the theme of my year, addressing inequalities, of which COVID-19, the pandemic, amplified the inequalities in our systems, in our countries, and around the world. But inclusion is not a slogan. I have a theme where I always say diversity is a fact, but inclusion is what is a choice. Inclusion, like I said, is not just a slogan, but it's a line that should be in every strategy document. It is my lived experience, and so many of you too. Inclusion is about how people feel seen as well, whether they feel heard and whether they feel valued. And I have learned that inequality is not always loud, sometimes it is quiet. It shows up in opportunities never offered, voices never invited, potentially sometimes potential is not even realized. Inclusion for me is very, very deeply personal. It's about ensuring that every voice, regardless of your background, your ethnicity, or your circumstance, has a place at the table, because I have seen what happens when people are included. We include, we lead, we contribute, we inspire change in ways that triple far beyond what me and you can measure. But achieving this requires courage. Courage to challenge the systems and the establishments. Courage to listen deeply as leaders, and courage to also act decisively. Because inclusive communities are not built by accident, they are built by design from me and you. So we are living increasingly in an urban world. Cities are no longer just where me and you live. They are engines of opportunity, innovation, and transformation. A truly sustainable city is one where growth does not leave people behind, development does not erase identity, progress does not come at the cost of dignity. So the currency of leadership for us around the world today, we are facing a crisis of trust. Trust in our institutions, trust in our leadership, and trust between me and you. And yet, trust is the foundation upon which everything else stands. Without trust, our policies will fail, our communities will fracture, and our progress will stall. So please, let us trust with people and engage with them. And with trust, we can make sure communities thrive, and with trust, change now becomes possible. Please remember, not with our words, but with our deeds. And that is what we actually do. My own journey, like I've said to you earlier, positions of leadership is a reflection of what is possible when communities are empowered and systems open up. As you can tell, they're telling me to round up. I am calling on all the leaders here today, that distinguished leaders from different parts of the world who have come for this meeting. We are not here by coincidence. We are here because the world needs leadership, and it needs people who are serving from the bottom up and making sure that every level we have real representation, where our leadership is ethical, inclusive, courageous, and most importantly, grounded in service to humanity. As I conclude, let me leave you with this today. Decisions that we make as leaders in rooms like this will echo far beyond us. It will echo into communities we may never visit, into lives we may never meet, and into futures that we may never see. So many of us carry stories, but do make sure you remain committed and connected to the people that you serve. Let us choose wisely, let us lead boldly, and my prayer for you all is that may your dreams continue to stay big, your worries continue to stay small, may you never need to carry more than you can hold. Thank you very much.